Thank you to all my channel members, including my fan appreciation level members and my contributor level members, for helping support the YouTube channel. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the science fiction novel The Green and the Gray by Timothy Zahn. Now, a lot of people who know my channel know I'm a huge Timothy Zahn fan. I've read now like 36 of his novels. I've read all his Star Wars stuff. I've read a lot of his original science fiction. I still have a ton left in his backlog to read because he is so prolific, but I'm a huge fan of his. And I actually interviewed him a couple years ago at DragonCon, so look up Timothy Zahn, Jonathan Cohn interview if you're interested, and you'll find it. And I'm trying to read through a lot of his books, and some of them I love, some of them I don't care for, and then some of them I feel like it's okay, and then some of them are like some of my favorites ever. And so, even though despite the fact that not every single book of his is the best, I still love him as a writer. And I do not give out 10 out of 10 very often on this channel. The last time I did give out a book a pure 10 out of 10 was over a year and a half ago as I'm recording this. This is recording in January of 2025. The last time I gave out a 10 out of 10 was July 2023. And so that long record of not giving out a 10 out of 10 is broken with this book, because this book was amazing. So good. Literally every element of it, I felt it hit out of the park. The characters, the action, the story, the mystery, the twists, the themes, the world building, all of it just hit so hard, and it flowed so well, and it read so fast, and it is just a superb book by Timothy Zahn. It has quite a lot of his touchstones in his writing style, but it also shows him flexing his muscles, his creative muscles a little bit. And so just in every way, I am just floored by how amazing this book is. I actually purchased this book from Tim a couple years ago at DragonCon, and he did sign the copy for me, which was very nice of him to do. Yeah, I absolutely loved this book. So I'm going to go into discussion about it a little bit. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers if you haven't read it, because boy, does this book have some great twists and spoilers. But I'm going to kind of try to explain it without the spoilers. So this book, the premise of it, is that there are these two alien factions who have the Greens and the Greys. And these two factions have basically formed kind of like gangs, and they are kind of fighting each other in the city of New York in like present day. Like, this was written in 2005, so in like 2005 New York. And the basic premise is that the two gangs have come up with a way to avoid further fighting. And what is that way? To sacrifice a little girl named Melantha, who you can see in the picture on the cover, Melantha. And so the premise of the book is that Melantha escapes them when they're about to sacrifice her. And this human couple finds her and is trying to protect Melantha from these two gangs that are trying to sacrifice her. And in the midst of it, they kind of get caught up in the gang war and end up realizing how big a deal it is. It's not just gangs. It's a huge deal that could mean the end of New York City as they know it. And it also has some other implications for stuff. And it ends up with them trying to stop all of this and to bring peace and whatnot. And it felt to me like, of course, a lot of people have compared it to a kind of a Shakespearean type story of like Romeo and Juliet, although this doesn't have romance like Romeo and Juliet. But you do have the two factions that are at war and trying to come up with peace and stuff. And then you also have, it seems a little bit like West Side Story, which is essentially a gang war in New York. Although, again, without the music or without the romance in it. But still, this book just deals with such interesting themes about how to make peace with enemies and how to put aside differences, and also when is it time not to do that and when is it time to actually fight back, and what level of retaliation for war is a correct level of retaliation. It's exploring those deep themes while still being an excellent action-adventure mystery thriller. The main two characters of the book are Roger and Caroline, who is our married couple who's your average New York City citizens, and Roger is a like a legal expert, and Caroline is a real estate developer. And so the two of them, they live pretty good lives. They're apparently at a rocky road in their marriage, but they live pretty good lives. And then this little girl, this 12-year-old, is just thrust upon them, and they try to protect her from this gang war that's happening. And both characters are just handled so well, and they go on such a journey. And so I really liked the character journey that Tim takes the characters on. Because I'm being honest, character journey is not always the thing that he excels the most at in all of his novels, but he does a very good job with it here. There's also just incredible world building here. You find out the backstory of the Greens, the green aliens, where they came from, the gray aliens, where they came from. You find out why they're at war with each other. You find out how it's all connected. You find out, because they're aliens, they have special technology, and they also have special abilities and powers. And so you're trying to figure out how to stop them, how to stop that technology, stop those abilities, but also reconcile how can we utilize it, perhaps. And so there's great world building here, despite the fact that, of course, it's taking place in New York. The aliens are, aliens. So Tim Zahn gets to play with that a little bit. It is the least sci-fi of all of Tim Zahn's books that I've read, but of course it has sci-fi elements throughout, and some fantastical elements, I would say. It's more sci-fantasy than it is pure sci-fi, but anyway, that's getting a little bit too in the weeds on that. The book also has great action. There are several fight scenes and shootouts and escapes and escapades that happen throughout the book. It's a pretty, the book in hardcover was about 440 pages, but it's actually pretty beefy in terms of having really small font. So it's a pretty decently long book, and he packs so much into those pages. There's so many action scenes, and none of them felt too long. There's so many action scenes, and none of them felt repetitive. And there's so many action scenes, and they all seemed interesting to me, which is very rare with action scenes. I'm usually not an action scene person, but I really like the action scenes in here. And you also have a character who is this detective who he's a police detective who gets caught up in the middle of this, and he's trying to figure stuff out as well, and he's also trying to not reveal stuff about aliens being in New York, and it's that whole subplot was also, I thought, really well done. And in true Timothy Zahn fashion, he has this penultimate chapter in the book, which is one of the longer chapters in the book, where he basically has all these twists and reveals and stuff. It's very Agatha Christie inspired, but Tim always takes it to another level because it's so complex, the mystery, and the twists are so complex. It's very much like if you've read his Icarus saga, I would say that the twists and the reveals and the mystery box stuff in this book is kind of like that, but I would say it's better here than in the Icarus saga. I love the Icarus saga. I think it's a great series, but this is on another level with the way he did the twists. And I was shocked by the twists in this book. I thought he just did a tremendous job with them. He also has some great mystery throughout the early part of the book where he's laying the groundwork and he's giving you the breadcrumbs for everything. And I thought he did a tremendous job laying the groundwork and giving us the breadcrumbs for everything. The book also has some themes about 9/11 where it goes into, because this book, of course, was written soon after the events of 9/11, and it references 9/11 many, many times because it's in New York post 9/11. Of course, it's going to be mentioned many times. And so it was a little jarring at first because I thought, man, you never get political or getting into the modern events, Tim. But I think that because of the setting of the story, it was an intrinsic part that he had to keep referencing that. And also, the book has some themes that really, really resonate with probably New Yorkers post 9/11, even Americans just post 9/11, that I thought were really interesting. And he also makes some some thematic decisions that to me really reminded me of the issues that we're currently, even in the 2020s, dealing with in the Middle East with Israel versus Palestine. And it's just, Tim is approaching it in a very non-partisan way. You can tell Tim is not trying to push a political perspective on you, but the ideas are just so rich and complex, and I just thought that was just such a cool way of portraying this. And, of course, Israel and Palestine are not mentioned like once in the entire book, but if you're noticing themes, you're going to pick up on it. And I thought that was really interesting what he had there. And so, like, as I mentioned, like on every level, this book hit it out of the park. And I was so not expecting it. I've only given one other Tim Zahn book a pure 10 out of 10, and that was Manta's Gift, which, I don't give 10 out of 10s often. So the fact that one author got 2 is whoo. But Manta's Gift was also a very different style book, but was also incredibly written. And so so I gave this a 10 out of 10, and I still, it's been 3 years since I've read this, and I maintain, yep, it earned its spot. And I feel I'm going to feel the same way about this one because it was just on every level. And by the way, it also deals with some themes that are in his Conquerors trilogy. If you've read the Conquerors trilogy, when you get to the end of this book, you'll be like, I see the connections to like similar themes that he does with Conquerors. I think it's done fantastically in Conquerors, and I think it's also done fantastically here. So, yes, I'm gushing about this book. Yes, Timothy Zahn is one of my favorite authors, but he's earned it. And this is one of those books that purely shows, of course he's earned it, because he did a tremendous job with this. I give it an unqualified 10 out of 10. I absolutely loved it. It is so incredible, and I am so excited that I read it, and it makes me want to go read a bunch more Tim Zahn books that are on my shelves. So if you've read The Green and the Gray, let me know your thoughts on it down below. What other Tim Zahn books do you love, and which ones do you want to see me read next? Let me know all those thoughts. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, consider becoming a channel member where I do weekly updates and have special stickers and badges and stuff for people. But please consider that if you can. But until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.